All right. Hello, Oslo. You comfortable? How you doing?
I'm feeling great.
Good.
Good morning, everybody.
Good. Good morning. Oslo, it's truly an honor to be here, a privilege to be able to share this. I'm very excited for this conversation and share it with you all. So as the video alluded to, my name's Jack. I'm the founder of a company called Strike, and I'm accompanied by a dear friend of mine and inspiration to hopefully many more than exist this very second. And we're going to discuss that as Fodé is the founder of the Bitcoin Developers Academy and Africa's Bitcoin Conference. And so a lot of our discussion is to visit the concept of money and understand its importance in the fight for freedom and its ability to enable foundational human rights and human freedoms, and maybe the state of money that exists today, and alluding to some education and transparency as to where we are and why we are where we are, and how it maybe isn't doing much enabling. And I don't know, I know we discussed backstage and I'm familiar with your story, and a lot of the world isn't, and I think the best way to get started in that conversation is allow you to just explain what you've been through, your story, and your view of money in the world and Bitcoin's potential role in advancing that.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me here. Thank you, HRF and Alex Gladstein, for inviting me. I feel very privileged, and even to sit next to you, and thank you for having me. So my name is Fodé. I'm from Senegal originally, and we have a problem with a colonial currency. So in West Africa right now, we have about 15 countries for whom basically France controls the currency itself. The money is made by France, it's printed in the south of France, and France actually controls the economic destiny of 15 of these countries. In '94, I left Senegal to go to college in America. And unfortunately, that very specific year, the CFA got devaluated by 50%. So what it means is that overnight, the money that my dad saved for me to go to college was divided by half. The Senegalese people didn't have nothing to say about it. They couldn't vote. It wasn't like the euro. When the euro happened here with the Eurozone in Europe, people actually were given a choice to either join the EU and actually have the euro as a currency or keep their own. It's funny actually because a couple of days ago when I got here, I was really surprised to see that Norway actually have the Norway crown. They don't have the euro itself, right? And I thought about it. I was like, how come actually Norway is not really part of the EU? How do they have their own currency? Because they are free and they have a choice to basically either join this currency or keep their own pretty much, right? So this morning, as I was sitting in the crowd and I heard about Karin's story from Rwanda, Filmu, I was so touched, Filman from Touchman, from Eritrea, and I said to myself, how can we have like happier stories in Africa, right? Right now we have these very brutal and very rigid governments, basically. So I want to have like a happier story about Africa, but unfortunately, this money itself, right, is actually what's maintaining these dictators in West Africa itself, right? So ultimately, if you want to like really get people to freedom, we somehow, some way have to like really control this money and make sure that this money does not support these dictators that are in power today. And that's what I wanted to share with the public today.
Yeah, it's a really important message to try and understand is money's role in enabling or disabling very foundational rights and finding a monetary network and a monetary system that acts in the best interest of the people and that cannot be manipulated and controlled by a central point of failure, by someone that has whatever malicious intent or interest to act against those that don't deserve that. And I think there's a severe lack of education, especially in the more developed and privileged world, that our money works, more or less. And it's very important to not only understand that in majority of the world, not only does their money not, but the power of their money is used violently against them and is held in such concentrated control. And so I actually, listen, I'm not going to sit up here and be naive about the fact that Bitcoin's a very complicated topic and it's a wide array of differing opinions about Bitcoin. One of the mental models I want to deploy in this conversation, I'm curious your thoughts, is thinking of Bitcoin as more of a tool and not a speculative asset. I think one of the more popular ways to think about Bitcoin is a digital version of gold, and I'm sure we've all heard about that. But what I want to try and instill and discuss very quickly is Bitcoin somehow, through very complicated engineering and just pure innovation, was able to create a monetary network and a monetary asset that carries properties that are very foundational to supporting human rights and disabling authoritarian regimes or dictators, right? And acting in the best interest of the people, and the people can rely on Bitcoin because it is uncensorable, unconfiscatable, is truly distributed. And if you think of it is a digital rock that lives amongst the clouds, is how I like to think of it. That's why I like to put it in the slide. It doesn't live with under anyone other than the people in a distributed fashion. And using this tool, whether you think Bitcoin is going up or down, or you think to the left's opinion or the right's opinion, it's a very, very important concept to understand that the ability to escrow value digitally, move value at the speed of light for the first time in human history, on your own merit, on your own time, sovereignly, without needing the permission of anybody, especially in the majority of the world, is such a powerful concept. So I'm curious, given the story you just told and the experiences that you've lived through, I know a lot of people where I'm from want to see an ETF. And that's, I think, one of the more improper ways to think about it. What do you want to see? What does Bitcoin mean to you?
Well, for me, like you said, to me, the most important part about Bitcoin is the monetary network itself, right? If you look at the situation in West Africa right now, we said, okay, there are 15 countries for whom, basically, again, France controls their money itself, right? But how do we get away from that? The idea is like, in the future, are these governments going to make the digital money itself? Is it going to be France? Is it going to be startups, right? The idea is that if it's governments making this digital money, they're going to print as much as they want, ultimately, right?
Yep.
So for me, what I want to see is a monetary network that is not controlled by the governments, that is not controlled by the French, and I am able to send money here from Norway or from America, where I live right now, send money to my mom, and have her basically be able to get this money, cash it on the other side by using basically the Bitcoin network. And the way that it works is that, let's say any company right now that basically implements Bitcoin, I can just take my wallet that's made by a company in the US, send this money to my mom, and she can on the other side basically turn this money into mobile money and get the cash in Senegal itself, right? So the idea is that, again, the money is not broken in a developed world. In Norway, in America, money works. We have a way to like really go to a bank really quick, open up a bank account, get a credit card, and get pretty much like all these banking services. Unfortunately, in Africa, banks are pretty much like luxury brands, because a bank will never open up a branch in the village itself, right? So how do we service these people? Personally, I believe that the future of banking is going to be most likely an Android device connected to the Bitcoin network itself, right? And we can send value from anywhere in the world, and anybody who basically joins this network participates in the network effect of this monetary system itself. That's what I want to see, personally.
100%. And so I'm going to transition to this slide. And just to try and put a little bit more words as to what Fodé was alluding to, here's the power of Bitcoin as a tool. Listen, again, speculative biases aside, take a look at this slide. You can use Bitcoin as an instrument to escrow value anywhere in the planet. It's unconfiscatable, it's uncensorable, it is truly accessible. If you think about similar to the internet's ability to escrow information, Bitcoin has the same properties and the same capabilities to escrow value. And so yes, can it be used as an inflation hedge? Absolutely, absolutely. Can you opt out and opt into a monetary policy? Absolutely. But it is actually also a superior payments network. It's a superior way to have native interoperability and connectivity to transmit value at the speed of light without the permission of anyone else. And so in this infographic, it's illustrating the ability for someone from the United States, presumably, to initiate a $100 transfer. So my company, for example, but many others, allow you to connect a bank account. You have no idea you're using Bitcoin. No idea. We use it because it's actually just a superior tool to escrow value anywhere in the world. Connect your Chase account, and you want to send $100 to Senegal. What the software is allowed to do, you take the $100, you convert it to Bitcoin behind the hood, you're able to escrow value at the speed of light, across an ocean, across a border, across different jurisdictions, across different regimes. And then that physical value physical digital bearer instrument. How do you digitally move a piece of paper? How do you digitally move a rock? You can't. You can digitally move a physical instrument in Bitcoin, and it will land anywhere in the world, and then an ability to convert it back into the preference of the receiver. And so in that way, this illustration works if Bitcoin is $10, if Bitcoin's $100,000. If no one values Bitcoin other than a penny, we're able to do this and aid towards the fight for freedom, which is why we're here in Oslo, right? And so I think, I don't know if you have any other context here, but it's a mental model that I think is tremendously, tremendously, tremendously important, is that Bitcoin is not only for those to hedge the Federal Reserve's CPI metric inflation that gets reported in the United States. It has an enormous, enormous potential to create interconnectivity and network effects globally and empower things that were previously just very simply not possible.
Exactly. And for me, what I want to actually add to that again is that these particular countries have a problem because there is not cross-border commerce in West Africa itself, right? If you look at Europe, the EU itself, right, it is so connected. They are doing business like between each other, sending goods from like one border to another itself. In Africa, actually in West Africa, it is not like that specifically, right? So for me, what I want to see is like, how do we connect these 15 countries that are there? And like, again, do we have like actually a startup build this technology? It would take too long. Africa right now cannot wait itself, right? So the idea is like we have a monetary network that works itself. How do we connect to it to pretty much solve the problems that we have today, and Bitcoin works today? And that's why for me, that's why actually it's interesting, and that's why we can leverage it to have like more cross-border payments and have nations develop together, as a matter of fact.
Together is the big point. The
Exactly.
way that we talk about Bitcoin internally as a payments company is we think of it as the global payment standard for the world. Think of it this way. There's an open, accessible set of instructions that if you integrate these instructions, you are interconnected with the entire planet to settle value at the speed of light and at no cost. And no one can tell you otherwise, and no one can deplatform you from that. And if you want to use it, you have every right. If you don't have to. But if you need to, you can. And that is the tremendous property that Bitcoin enables. And there's also one more point I want to highlight that I think is very important. In a lot of the places that money doesn't work, that we're trying to describe. In a lot of the places that money is not, there aren't resources allocated for money to act in the best interest of the citizens that very need it. Bitcoin uniquely, it has this property of being open. And it being open, and I'm curious your thoughts on this as well, is very important because of the network effects. So if someone in Senegal, for example, integrates this payment standard, they also share in the work of the world that's integrating on that payment standard. They also get the benefits that Jack Dorsey and Square and Block also are building on this. And so a potentially under-resourced, deplatformed, lesser privileged part of the planet gets to share in the work and the innovation of the world. And that's why open networks win. I don't care what over-controlling powers and overreaching that you do, you cannot, like, freedom prevails, and that's why we're here. And Bitcoin has that very unique network effect, which I think the progress of a developing nation in their monetary innovation, if they use this open payment standard and get to share in the work of those all over the planet, it truly makes it unstoppable. This is not a project that's going to take 100 years or 50 years or 10 years. I mean, in the last 2 years, you and I have experienced tremendous change, right?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, even to add to that, I would go back to say again, like there's a president in Guinea by the name of Sékou Touré. And back in 1958, when they wanted freedom from the French, he gave a really powerful speech to General Charles de Gaulle in France. And what he said basically, if I can quote it properly, he said, we would rather have we would rather have poverty in freedom rather than riches in slavery itself, right? The problem is that right now, this money is keeping these countries in West Africa basically slaves. That's really what it is, right? So how do we get a technology that France cannot colonize? And to me, that's why I'm excited about Bitcoin, and that's why Bitcoin matters to me. I mean, on my day-to-day, basically activism to help these countries connect with each other and get away from France. And I don't have nothing against French people. Si vous êtes français, je suis désolé, je n'ai rien contre les Français. But the idea, I don't have nothing against the French, but I do have a problem with the French entities that are controlling and putting basically these countries under bondage, under financial bondage, and that's what I have a problem with.
Yeah, and so I know we both share in this message, and one of the many reasons we're here is to try and promote it, is that Bitcoin makes the world better. It makes the world better. It's an opt-in system, and if you have a problem with it, don't use it, but don't discourage those that need it and find value in it from using it. And I seriously encourage this group to just be curious. If anything, think of Bitcoin as an education vehicle. Because of Bitcoin, I have a PhD in monetary curiosity. It's true. It's very true. Why does money work the way it does? Why do people have outsized control to deprive freedom from those that it's so uncorrelated and unrelated? It's ridiculous. So we think, we need to make this Bitcoin network that's such a powerful tool for many, many reasons, more accessible and more usable. Yeah.
Exactly. You know, when I read the white paper in 2011, I never thought about America, actually. I never thought about the developing world. What I saw was a tool for Africa to use, actually, to help us get forward. When I was this morning, I was so heavy-hearted when I heard all the stories, man. You know, I said, why can't we just have better stories coming out of Africa, right? And the problem actually is that black people all over the world share the same plight. The problem is that we don't have access to financial resources, and especially in Africa itself, right? I'm not saying that actually Bitcoin is perfect, but it works today, and we gotta use it today.
Yep, 100%. And so the last slide, as we'll close it out, the company I founded, one of our core theses is what's highlighted in pink. It's one of the things I stand for and dedicate my life to as a man, as an individual, and then also as a business. And so in an effort to make the Bitcoin network more accessible, more usable, more helpful, we've always had a dedication to allocating resources to make that so, not only in our corporate interests, but generally in the people's interest. And so we felt that it was the correct forum to make an announcement of our latest donation in coordination to HRF and donating to a project called BTC Pay Server, which, for very quick education, if you look at this slide, BTC Pay Server is on the receiving end. It allows anyone, it's open source software, it's free forever, it is contributed to and managed by a distributed community, and it enables anyone in the world to connect and use this monetary network in a self-sovereign way that cannot be censored, cannot be controlled, cannot be stopped, and for those that need it most. And so we're really proud to work with HRF and contribute to BTC Pay Server. I don't know if you have anything else to add, but
yeah, I want to say a good shout out to Ire. I think she's in the crowd, and she'll be on a session at 3:15 today. When they had a problem raising money for against SARS violence in Nigeria, they cut off the bank accounts. And Ire is the one who set up the BTC Pay Server to receive Bitcoin donations in Nigeria. So I want to give her a big shout out. I can't see her, but she's an amazing engineer. She's an amazing engineer, and she basically helped put this tool together to fight the oppression in Africa itself, man. And it's amazing.
No, these are the efforts that matter, and think of Bitcoin as the world's global project to build interconnectivity for money. It truly is, and it'll, I believe personally, and hopefully this conversation alludes to this idea that it'll play a tremendous role in the fight for freedom.
That's
I believe that.
Absolutely.
So yeah, hopefully the takeaway is understand money's role in not only enabling freedom, but also potentially depriving those from freedom. And that Bitcoin, I encourage everyone to just take a peek and contrast it to what exists today. And it's a really fun mental exercise, if nothing else. So it's an honor, man. You're an inspiration. Thanks for sharing the stage. That's all we got, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.